This, my friends, is Star Wars Battlefront 1 from 2015. An amazing looking, sounding and playing online multiplayer shooter that, although sold millions, was panned at release and arguably ran out of steam far too early because of a lack of content and depth. Star Wars Battlefront 1 launched with no campaign, no way to play the big battles offline, and an incredibly expensive season pass that locked out the majority of the player base. Although the publisher EA and the developer DICE improved the game over its life cycle, the question always remained. Why did it launch in the way that it did, and why is this a common occurrence across the industry of video games? What you might not know is that in 2012 LucasArts had demoed, according to some players, one of the most exciting Star Wars games ever created. A single-player game based on the exploits of the bounty hunter, Boba Fett, the developers at LucasArts felt they had something very, very special on their hands. Only to have that special project cruelly cancelled when Lucasfilm was sold to Disney and they contracted out the Star Wars games to EA. That potentially amazing single-player campaign could have been adapted for Battlefront 1. Or it could have been the basis for the Star Wars game Visceral Studios were working on, until EA shut that whole studio down to pivot their game in a different direction. Star Wars 1313 is just one example of how the development of video games is a process fraught with pitfalls and challenges, some of which can be overcome and some which are fatal. And in Jason Schreier's book, Blood, Sweat and Pixels, he tells us the stories behind 10 such famous and not such famous video games. Pillars of Eternity, Uncharted 4, Stardew Valley, Diablo 3, Halo Wars, Dragon Age Inquisition, Shovel Knight, Destiny, The Witcher 3 and of course Star Wars 1313. Jason Schreier weaves riveting stories about the development of all of these games. But don't worry if some of the titles are unfamiliar. Jason's combination of a journalistic fact-finding, interviews and a flair for an interesting tale make every chapter a must-read. Travelling around the world to speak to the actual people involved in making these games, Jason has pulled back the curtain on the order from chaos that can envelop the development of video games. Games that started bad and got better after release, games produced through love and devotion, and games published purely through hard work, overtime, and the financial imperative to keep the company alive. You'll learn that demos and gameplay exhibited at big games conventions like E3 are not to be trusted because they are custom built purely to make a splash, and the release of the game can be radically different. You'll learn the story of a game isn't what drives its development forwards. In fact, the story often becomes subservient to the practicalities of fitting different systems, assets and ideas together in a way that hopefully works. You'll also learn that developers who are at the top of their game can quickly fall out of favour as soon as a project becomes bogged down, but also that a single person with the right passion, vision and know-how can create a game that sells millions. In Blood, Sweat and Pixels, you'll read stories of redemption, adversity, triumph and of course tragedy, and I think that this book is a must-read for any video game fan, and then you'll have at least a small idea of what the people who make the games we love go through to get them onto our consoles and PCs, and of course into our hearts. Blood, Sweat and Pixels by Jason Schreier. Highly recommended. Okay, so that's enough from me. If you enjoyed the video, hit like. If you want to see more of the same, press subscribe. Put your questions and comments down below, and I will see you again soon.
Trying to trip up the walker.
Walker in attack position. Main power generator in range.
The famous smuggler has made his final kettle run.
They've latched onto the walker.